Okay. So flip mode is not working. Can't have that feature. So don't like that. But it is what it is. Not quite sure what that's about. Hopefully they will fix that. Okay, but now I know. So yesterday I kept going in and out hoping that it would change. And it didn't change. So I'm going to just slide out of the way. Completely out of the way. So that you can get a screenshot before everybody gets on. And you will have that for your records. I will start uploading to the Real Leader Brain on Instagram this upcoming week. These graphics will be featured there. Nevertheless, we can go ahead and get started with our 3 deep breaths. Inhale and exhale on your own. 3 deep breaths starting now. Okay, I'm back, and I think I have to sneeze. Good morning. I am Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers. Welcome to your morning mental workout. I am Dr. Donna Louise Thomas-Rodgers, daughter of Leslie Darnell Thomas, granddaughter of Arthur Jethro Evelyn II, and great-granddaughter of Levi Thomas. Today's topic is Principle of Real Leadership number 21 in chronological order, and it is look people in the eye when you talk to them. Look people in the eye when you talk to them. Now, the quote in my book is, I never trusted a person's eyes who I could not see. And back in 2009, that made perfect sense. But now that I understand cultural differences and mental illnesses and things like that, I know differently. And I also know why it's difficult for people to look people in the eye when they are speaking. And that's what we're going to discover today. Have you ever been talking to someone and they're not looking at you and you say, look at me, I'm talking to you. Look at me, I'm talking to you. And then they can't, or you meet somebody and they're kind of doing like this and you don't know why. Well, today you're going to discover why. This is a morning mental workout. Your brain is 70% water, according to Dr. Bean, a neurologist on TikTok. And he is the one who said, before you drink your coffee or anything else in the morning, go ahead and drink water. You have been asleep all night, and that has caused you to become dehydrated. So this is a morning mental workout. You are going to be using your brain and taking new information in. So if you don't have water, go ahead and grab water. Again, in order chronologically, we are at the 21st principle of real leadership, which is to look people in the eye when you talk to them. For visitors, I take breaks throughout this live and ask questions. If you decide to stay this morning, wait until I say these magic words. What questions do you have, or is this clear to you? Now, while you might want to say hello and tell me all these things that you would do on other people's lives, if you are not a regular attender, just sit back, chill out, see how this live runs before you start to do things that you would normally do on other people's lives, because that's not how this works over here. I have an agenda. I'm reading off of a tablet and note taking. Good morning, Regina. And so you're new to this. Disruption is quite disruptive for the process. So wait until I ask, what questions do you have? Write your questions down, and then I will get to you and I will answer your question at that time. That is one of the guiding principles for this live. So again, we are talking about looking people in the eye when you're talking to them. And what I will be addressing is the brain regions that you use to do it, the brain regions that you use to avoid it, the benefits and the activities associated with it. We'll finish with the brain bit, and then there will be 2 questions that you answer at the end, which is, what did you learn today and what did you learn about yourself? So be thinking about what it is that you're learning and what you're learning about yourself throughout this process. Looking someone in the eye when you talk to them involves a complex network of brain regions of both hemispheres, engaging emotional regulation, social cognition, attention, and motor control. So here are all of the brain regions, and there are 9 brain regions involved in looking someone in the eye when you're talking to them. Now, I was shocked beyond, I was like, 9? We have so many other principles of real leadership that don't use 9, but something as simple as, look at me when I'm talking to you. 9 brain regions. So now you understand when you say that to someone, or your expectation is that you're asking them, and let me move because YouTube will not let me flip. But look at all of those brain regions that require connectivity in order for you to look at somebody while they're talking and while you're talking, to have an eye to eye contact conversation. Now you can understand why it is extremely difficult for that to actually take place. So here are the brain regions. You have the medial prefrontal cortex, and it is both hemispheres. And what it does is it interprets others' intentions and social meaning and self-awareness. Okay, good morning, Lola. Thank you for letting me know that. So it interprets others' intentions and social meanings of self-awareness. The amygdala is also bilateral, and it processes emotional significance of eye contact, threat versus trust. Threat versus trust. That's going to be very important. So remember that. Now we have the superior temporal sulcus, and that is something new that we haven't talked about. Okay, I'm going to say this one more time, TW Rook. I have an agenda that I actually go through. There will be times, if you choose to stay on this live, where you can ask questions in regards to the topic that I am speaking about. Today, I am speaking about the 21st principle of real leadership. Look people in the eye when you are talking. So when I get to a point, if you decide to stay, I will be answering questions about the information that I am covering. This is not a, ooh, brain facts, let me show you how brilliant I am. I am brilliant, but I actually have an actual agenda with notes. Now you made me drop my tablet. With notes and everything else. So if you plan to stay, go gather note-taking materials and see the disruption? Okay. Gather note-taking materials and wait until I say, what questions do you have about this? We have to wait a moment, ladies and gentlemen. So again, I will be glad when school starts back and you all, the unaccountables, have something else to do besides this. Okay. So again, we have a new region of the brain, which is the superior temporal sulcus, and it is right dominant when it comes to eye contact. But here's the function of it. It plays a crucial role in understanding social interactions, including recognizing facial expressions, body language, and the intentions behind actions. So this is a new region of the brain. It is the superior temporal sulcus, and that is its role. Next, you have a new area as well, the fusiform face area. And what this is responsible for, it's right dominant, and it recognizes faces and helps maintain eye focus. And there is actually a brain deficiency where people can't recognize faces. It's actually a neurological deficiency in the brain that will stop people from recognizing faces. But its goal is to identify and distinguish faces, including recognizing familiar faces and differentiating between various facial expressions. So if I go versus, that's what its role is. Next, we have the anterior cingulate cortex. This is also bilateral for both hemispheres. Its role, as usual, is conflict monitoring, emotional regulation during social interactions. So you're calming yourself down and you're not going, oh my goodness, what? Hold up. It's assessing the eye contact that you're making based upon looking at what people are doing. Next, you have the orbital frontal cortex, and it is bilateral, but it is more right dominant, and it evaluates social rewards and appropriateness of eye contact. So you want to make sure your eyes are staying where they need to be and not where they don't need to be. Next is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It is left dominant, and it supports the working memory and social interaction. So as you are interacting with people, it's helping the working memory say, okay, this is what's taking place. This is what's taking place. This is not what's taking place. The insula is the right dominant hemisphere, and it monitors internal emotional state during eye contact. So you're checking yourself, you're maintaining eye contact, and you're making sure everything is cool, and your heart isn't beating fast, and you're not going, oh my goodness, what are you saying? Oh, so it's regulating your emotional state. So you're not like, what? Someone is talking. And then this other region that is new to us today is the frontal eye fields, and it is bilateral, and it is referred to as the FEF. This is responsible for controlling eye movement, and it plays a crucial role in both the planning and execution of these movements. It's also involved in cognitive functions like visual attention and perceptual awareness. So if you have rapid eye movement, the eyes are jumping all over the place, or you can't seem to function or focus, it is in your frontal eye movement, your FEF, where that is taking place. Now, the hemisphere summary is this. In the right hemisphere, you have a stronger social perception, emotional nuance, and nonverbal communication. So everything that's happening that you can see, that's what's happening in the right hemisphere. And it's dominant for interpreting gaze, facial recognition, and regulating eye contact under social stress. So if you are extremely, look at me, where was you on the night of 17? I don't know. You got to maintain that eye contact. And then with the left hemisphere, it's the verbal expression and the conscious intention to maintain eye contact during speech. Now, one of the things when I was a public speaker that I learned in Toastmasters as well as in NSA is how do you maintain eye contact with an audience? And so what you do is you do blocking, which is you say a point, then you move to stress another point, then you move to stress another point going across the stage or the speaking space if you're in a conference room. But additionally, you may look at one particular person for a point, address a particular section of audience, and so everyone in the room gets the information that you're saying. But you don't want to stare at one person too long, and then because then that makes the other person uncomfortable. So there is a healthy amount of time that you are maintaining this eye contact. Now, what I would like to say before I get into, well, let me do the key takeaways, and then I have something else to say. So the key takeaway is this: looking people in the eye when you talk to them requires coordinated activity between both hemispheres. That means that you're going to need to be bilateral. The right hemisphere is slightly more dominant because of the emotion, because of its role in emotional and facial processing, while the left hemisphere helps manage speech and intentionality. So basically, what I'm going to say is there are cultures where looking someone in the eye is disrespectful. There are also people who have ADHD, autism, and so them looking at people in the eye is something that neurologically will take more focus for them to do. In fact, I sent my daughter, who has autism, ADHD, and a slight case of autism, ADHD, and ADD, why that cannot take place for her currently. But the brain is plastic. And so I've been working with her for several years now, ensuring that the rewiring of those neural pathways is taking place. And you wouldn't know it unless she told you at this point that she has 3 mental illnesses. And so there is the ability for you to neurologically override what is actually taking place. Now, culturally, I'm not, embrace diversity is one of the 74 principles of world leadership. For those cultures whom that is not something that is respectful to do, I'm not about to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'm talking about in the culture that I'm from in this instance, and people who suffer from mental illnesses or who have mental illnesses, that you can in fact do this, and it's a neurological aspect. It's not just, well, I just don't look people in the eye. Now you know exactly what it is that you can do. Again, I am in the middle of a lecture. And so saying hi to me, while this may be something that you do on other people's lives, I know you're not accustomed to actually being educated in this manner on YouTube. It is quite disruptive. So imagine if you were in a lecture hall in a college classroom and you came in late and the first thing you did was say hello to the professor. It is extremely rude. So you are late or you're just now joining. So don't say hello to me. It is distracting for me. If you're going to stay and wait until I say, what questions do you have about what I'm talking about? Or you can exit stage left. I'm cool either way because it is quite distracting. Now, the next thing that I will be discussing are the brain regions that are involved when you are avoiding eye contact. So avoiding eye contact when talking to someone can activate or suppress specific brain regions, often due to discomfort, anxiety, low social engagement, or emotional deregulation. And here are the brain regions, and I'm going to slide out of the way again because the bug inside of YouTube. So it is the one on the left where it says brain regions when avoiding eye contact. I'll give you a moment to look at that. Take a screenshot of it if you like. The comments shouldn't affect the top two based upon the feedback from Nola, that now you should be able to still see those things. So here are the brain regions in the hemispheres that are impacted when you avoid eye contact. Number one on the list is the amygdala, and it is the right dominant hemisphere. So overactive due to fear, anxiety, or social threat detection. And it may cause avoidance, reducing perceived danger or discomfort. So what happens is when I was growing up, I was a very scared child because I lived in a dysfunctional household. My mother used to drink, so every time she went to social events, she would get drunk, act like a damn fool. My sister be off somewhere chasing around some little boy or something. And so I was just seeking safety. So anytime we got into a social event that wasn't with my grandfather's family where there was no alcohol because he was a recovery addict, it made me antsy. And I would just like, okay, I'm gonna just sit in the corner because my amygdala would be like, safety, 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 safety. So the last thing you were gonna get from me was a conversation and eye contact because I felt threatened in those environments. The next one is the medial prefrontal cortex, and this is bilateral. And so what happens when you're avoiding eye contact is it reduces engagement, it decreases social cognition, and empathy and theory of mind. So when I was in those situations, I'm just like, I'm not going to think straight. I can't do anything but protect little Dee right now. I don't have time to do anything whatsoever. The next one is the ACC, the anterior cingulate cortex. This is also bilateral, and it has a lower regulation of social conflict and emotional discomfort, and it may fail to modulate avoidance. So at this point, because you are trying to protect yourself, the amygdala can't do what it's actually designed to do because you're too busy saying, oh, no, I can't make eye contact with you. Okay. Oh, no, this is an extremely stressful situation for me. I don't know. And so now you really can't do what you need to do in that moment. Now we're talking about the superior temporal sulcus again. It's right dominant and it's underactive. And so what it does is it leads to reduced processing of other gazes and social cues. So now you can't process social cues that are taking place. You can't pay attention if somebody is looking at you and you're not looking at them because you are all over the place. Because remember, number one was the amygdala, which was like, ooh, this is stressful. I can't do this. Next is the fusium face area for right domination of the right hemisphere of the brain. And it reduces activation, making it difficult for processing or attending to faces. So even though you might know the person and recognize the person or process new faces, it's stopping you from doing all of that, again, because you started out in a situation with a hijacked amygdala. Next is the insula. This is also right dominant, and it is heightened self-awareness and discomfort during social contact, and it may drive withdrawal. When I used to have to go to networking events after working with my sister and having to recover and be in Al-Anon and all of that, I would go to not working events is what I realized that they were. And I would just stand back and just watch people. And I'm like, I don't know these people. I'm not from the West Coast. What in the world? And then finally, I just had to start going up to people and having conversations. But it was very difficult. And I would just sit there at the bar with my sparkling water in a glass with a stem. And I would look, and sometimes I would leave and make no contact because it was hard enough for me just to be there. Next is the orbital frontal cortex, and it is right dominant. And what happens is decreased evaluation of social rewards or appropriateness, reducing the motivation to engage. And so because I didn't have the background, I mean, I was in a room with elected officials, people from the MGM Grand and the Sands and everywhere else. And here I am, little old me, small business owner, hadn't been in corporate buildings or anything in it was like 3 years. And so it was difficult for me to get back into the swing of things. If you think about it, if you were married and now you're divorced or your spouse passes and now you're about to get out here in the dating game again, like how you're like, I have no idea how this works. I don't know what to do. Now you got to swipe left. You got to swipe right. What is the language? All of these things take place. And so that causes you to say, hey, yeah, so my name is Dr. Donna. Yeah, what is it that you do? Oh, yeah, I just said. And now you're avoiding all kind of eye contact. And then finally, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. This is left dominant, and it may show reduced executive control over social behavior and verbal expressions. We've seen it on the movies, somebody that has all their stuff together, and now they get up to do a presentation in front of somebody that they need funding from, and they flub it all. They can't make eye contact. They can't remember shit or anything else. And they're like, why did I freeze? Why did I freeze? And this is the reason why you froze, because you started out with a hijacked amygdala, and from there, it went downhill. So here's the hemisphere summary. Right hemisphere is more heavily impacted. It's responsible for social emotional perception, gaze interpretation, and emotional regulation. Avoidance behavior often stems from overactivation from the amygdala and the insula, as I stated for me when I was a child, or underactivation, which is in your superior temporal sulcus or your FFA. So from recognizing the facial expressions, or what do you do in these social interactions. Left hemisphere shows reduced speech related intentions. That means I can't remember what I was about to say. And consciousness regulation, which is disengaged. So, however, is usually less involved than the right in the gaze avoidance. So the gaze avoidance is like, oh my goodness, this person is so important. Oh, I can't even look at him now, because how can I ask them for $10 million? Oh my goodness. So that's what happens. If you're in trouble at school, now you got to see the dean or the principal, seeing your parents, having difficult conversations with people, breaking up with people. Now you can't have that gaze. If you have to discipline your children, sometimes you can't have that gaze. But that is all the direct result of a hijacked amygdala with the insula as the hype person. And so, how do you stop this? You brought this to my attention, Dr. Donna, but how do you stop it? Let me give you the key takeaways first, and then I will open it up for questions if you have any, and then we will talk about the activities to ensure that this is something that you will be able to do going forward. So the key takeaways are: avoiding contact reflects hyperactivity in fear-related regions and hypoactivity in social attunement areas, mostly in the right hemisphere. It's often a neural strategy to reduce emotional and cognitive overload. So your brain is trying to protect itself. And that's what happens. So let me explain the difference between hypoactivity and hyperactivity. Hypoactivity is a decrease in both cognitive and motor functions, leading to passive behavior and withdrawal from the current conversation. I gotta go. You run out of there, you leave. Oh my goodness, I think my phone is ringing. You leave because of the hyponess of it. You have a decreased cognition, and you can't think straight, move straight, or anything. So I got to exit stage left and get the hell out of here. Or you have hyperactivity and the condition of being abnormally or extremely active. So now you're saying too much, you're talking too fast, you're doing all like this. I know I got to say, and now you have both. And that's because the amygdala was like, whoo, this is a stressful situation. The insula said, it's stressful as shit. Woo, what you about to do? So you're either going to run out of the room, or you're going to turn into the court gesture and just start saying and doing all kind of things, drinking. And let me have some. And now either way, because you couldn't access your frontal lobe, which is where your executive function is, and inhibition control is in the executive function, you're going to do and say things that you would not normally do or say because of the stress of that situation. That eye contact with one or more people has thrown you into a tizzy. So what questions do you have about the 9 regions that you use to make eye contact and the regions that are impacted when you avoid eye contact, before I get into the brain-based activities to help you support being able to look people in the eye when you talk to them? And if it is clear for you, type clear. If you have a question, type ... an ellipse, a brain, a thinking emoji, whatever it is. I will be answering questions related to the topic at hand, which is look people in the eye when you talk to them, or the inability to look people in the eye when you talk to them. Those are the questions that I will be taking in this moment. And Lola, I see that you have typed clear. Should have did it before. My nose is itchy. Nola said clear as well. Regina, Can you state the name of the superior temporal? Is that correct for avoiding eye contact? It is the superior temporal sulcus, SULCUS, and it plays a crucial role in understanding social interactions, including recognizing facial expressions, body language, and the intentions behind the action. So it's like, what I say? You hear me? So it's like, hold up, she mad. Whoo, that's its role. So superior temporal sulcus and understanding social interactions, including recognizing facial expressions, body language, and the intention behind it. My pleasure. Okay. So have no fear. Dr. Donna is here. I'm not going to just throw some problems at you and say, figure it out. Here are some brain-based activities to strengthen your eye contact. Number one is the mirror eye gaze practice. And so the brain regions that are engaged in this, are the medial prefrontal cortex, the sulcus temporal, the superior temporal sulcus, and the amygdala. And what happens is this builds tolerance to eye contact by desensitizing emotional overaction and increasing self-awareness. So what you can do is just practice gazing at yourself in the mirror and talking to yourself. When I was exiting the military and I was interviewing with headhunters to get a civilian job, I sat down in a chair with the suit on that I was going to be interviewed in, sat in front of a long mirror and asked myself questions and answered those questions so that I would know what I was looking like when I was answering the questions to take the nerves away. So I practiced ad nauseum to be able to do that so there wouldn't be this jittery. And now I even had my portfolio at the time. You'd open it up, you'd hand them a resume, close it back. It had legal pad on the other side. I already had pre-questions written down to ask each individual company questions. And so I was extremely prepared, but I did that in the mirror so that I would know what I looked like when I was having conversations with people. Number two is face reading and emotion cards. And what you'll be using is the FFA, which is the fusiform face area, the STS, superior temporal sulcus, and the OFC, which is the orbitofrontal cortex. And what this does is this strengthens facial recognition and gaze decoding, improving comfort and social interpretations. And so, as I mentioned yesterday, you can just turn some screen time on, make sure that the caption isn't on, and then just look at people's facial expressions. And if you need the caption to just understand what's happening, do it. But then after you build it up, now you want to take the captions off to just see if you understand what people are saying as you're looking at them and staying engaged on what they're doing. I even have a 60-second strategy where I spend about 40 seconds just making different facial expressions because 91% of our communication is nonverbal. So you can understand what somebody's saying before they ever open their mouths. Because if I go, that you're not going to say, good morning, Dr. Donna, how are you today? You appear to be smiling. No, that's not. But oh shit, what's going on with Dr. Donna this morning? So that will allow you to be able to recognize that. Then the eye contact ladder, and this is for gradual exposure. And the brain regions engaged in this are the amygdala, the insula, and the ACC. So what it does is it reduces social anxiety by graded exposure. So it retains the fear center, retrains the fear center to stay calm during a gaze. So you might start with your children. You might start with somebody that you're already comfortable with having conversations with or accustomed to, and now you can look at them. And then you can start to have small talk at the grocery store when you're getting your coffee, at the bar, but not at the bar because by then you're drunk, you're not going to remember. But in other small social settings, go into your restaurant, fast food restaurant, and interact with the cashier and say hello to the cooks if you can see them. And that allows you to gaze longer in a less stressful social environment. And then you just have more and more exposure. You can even go live. You can FaceTime with people, and that will help you keep the gaze going. You can tell people that you trust and want to contribute to your growth and development, I need to work on eye contact. So I'm gonna need some help from you. When we're having conversations, let's just spend 5 minutes with me looking into your eyes and then build your way up from there. Next is number 4 is deep breathing before conversation. So that's why before I start the live completely, there is deep breathing. I do deep breathing before I even click the live button so that I can calm the amygdala down and be prepared for whatever the hell is going to happen when I press this live button. And the brain regions for that are the insula, the ACC, and the amygdala. And what it does is it regulates internal states. It lowers your arousal to anything, and then it improves readiness for calm eye engagement. So imagine if I did the whole live like this. How engaged would you all be if I was just talking and looking at my wall saying, okay, and then number 5, we are going to practice the mirror technique. It would not be that engaging. So even though, and the hardest thing for me with doing a live that I had to learn over 630 days ago was I'm looking at myself. And so I'm used to having an audience. I've always instructed with an audience. Even when I used to do Zoom calls with clients, I'm looking at the client. This was definitely a hurdle that I had to overcome because I'm looking at myself. But all of you feel like I'm talking to you, even though the only thing I can see is your username and the words. And now I have to have this other extra way to communicate. It was very challenging for me. So now I got to maintain eye contact with me, but act like I'm eye contacting you. So if you've ever gone live, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Number 6 is role-playing difficult conversations. And in doing this, you're going to be using the orbitofrontal cortex, the medial prefrontal cortex, and the anterior cingulate cortex. And what happens is that you prepare the brain for real scenarios, and it increases confidence and regulation under pressure. So I say play the movie out all the time. You can role play with someone you trust or do it with yourself. And we talked about going back and forth, seeing it from the other person's side. That will help you have difficult conversations. I remember the first time I had to terminate somebody. I didn't sleep the night before, and I just kept ruminating in my brain. How is this going to go? What's going to happen? I got to take their badge. I got to escort them out the door. I got to make sure they get in their car and drive away and don't come back with reinforcements. How is this going to happen? Even though it was their fault that they were no longer an employee, now you got to deal with everybody else. I can't believe you fired such and such. How you going to do it? You're a heartless, coldless son of a... I'm like, you was just complaining about them for being late yesterday. But okay, yeah, I'll be the bad guy. Roger that. So role play it out. Number 7 is that the gaze stabilization drills. And so this is vision therapy. And what happens is you're going to use your frontal eye fields, your superior temporal sulcus, and your FFA, which is your fusion form face area. And what this does is it builds control over where and how long you fix your gaze. And it increases naturally when you become more accustomed to doing it. So you're just going to stare. And what I used to do, because I have 5 different communication certifications, and that always required that I'd have to teach the audience some type of information, I would study. And literally, if I had to do a week-long training, I would prepare 2 weeks before the training to make sure when I say this in my notes, I'm going to look over here and I'm going to do this. And I even that's why my notes look like this, and they're highlighted and they have yellow and red for all of these different instructions that I have while I'm providing you with this information. And so that drill is going to let you say, okay, I'm going to say this whole point, and now I'm going to move to this point, and then I'm going to move to this point. And it allows you to be able to have the right amount of eye contact to get your message across. Number 8 is gratitude visualization before speaking. And that's your medial prefrontal cortex, your orbitofrontal cortex, and your insula. And so what happens neurologically is that it shifts the brain from fear to positive intent. And as we know, think positive is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. Additionally, it improves pro-social behavior and emotional alignment. And so when you are expressing gratitude, I am grateful for whomever shows up on the live every day to participate and learn about neuromobility and the ability to expand and grow your mind based upon a theory of personal accountability and 74 principles of real leadership. So it allows me to say, am I going to have some unaccountable, ignorant ass trolls on the live? Possibly. There are days where we go and there's nothing happening because the unaccountables are distracted by holidays and things like that. And it's wonderful. But we don't have another holiday in America until Labor Day. And school hasn't started back yet. So people are bored. Hence the influx of unaccountable people because they're looking for a dopamine boost and they can't get it where they normally get it. So I am grateful for the people who are here and came for the right reason. And when you have that gratitude, then that overrides the 5 people, 7 people, whomever it is that's going to be negative and ignorant. Block, block, delete, delete. And I don't let it stop me from doing what we all came here to do. That's for me to study the brain, master the brain, and teach you how to do the same. Next is storytelling with sustained eye contact. And this is in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the frontal eye fields, and the superior temporal sulcus. And what happens is you combine executive control with facial engagement, and it trains the brain for fluid communication under eye focus. So even though I'm reading, and I used to get, depending on what certification I was in, you can't read, but then you have to read because it says state. So I go back and forth with how much reading I'm going to do before I make eye contact with you again, because I could have went through all 10 and never looked up at you, and then that wouldn't have had any type of connection. So I read it, I give you an example of it, got a few hand gestures in there, vocal variety, thank you, because I'm a distinguished Toastmaster, and now that solidifies what I'm saying, because some people can hear the technical jargon, they got it. Some people need to see a picture, which is why I have that. And then some need an example. And when you have storytelling, I think I'm about to sneeze. No, okay. When you use storytelling, it allows people to become engaged with you. And then you can remember the information because of the story that I attach to that information. And then number 10 is daily affirmations. I am safe looking people in the eye. I say confirmations because unaccountable people have just adulterated the word affirmations. So daily confirmations. I am safe looking people in the eye. I am safe looking people in the eye. And what happens is you're using the medial prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. And what happens with this is that it rewires the threat protection around eye contact. And it replaces fear with calm identity cues. Now, here's the example that I will use for you. The reason why you want to say this is because I'm a former military police officer. I have a master's degree in criminal justice, and I grew up in the hood. And so sometimes Nola and I still have appointments in the hood. And so what I do is I maintain eye contact with the threat. I want the threat to know, motherfucker, I'm a threat too. One of us going to be more than a threat than the other. So in the event that you actually feel threatened, the person that's doing the threatening is actually wanting you not to be able to look at them. Because what happens when the authorities show up? What do they look like? Give us a description of what took place. And because you're like, I don't know, I can't remember, they were charging at me. We had somebody come into our home one summer when I got kicked out of advanced camp because of my shoulder, came in the house and robbed us at gunpoint. I told them exactly what that motherfucker looked like. Exactly. Oh, yes, I did. One, I knew the height, the weight, everything that he had on. My mother and my sister, just a total wreck. Couldn't remember shit. I remembered everything, what his voice sounded like and everything. I looked him dead in his eyes, and he lucky he had a gun and I didn't. That's all I will say about that. Caught us slipping, but he won't, never again. So my point is, in that moment, I could be like, oh my God, because I was the first person. I was sitting on the couch. So I was the first person that he came in contact with. And I was like, I said, oh, all right, bet, got it. Okay, cool. What you need? Calming the situation down, but I can still can see him in my head right now. So the point is to be able to maintain eye contact. Most of the time, you won't be in a threatful situation. And so do not be afraid and tell yourself, I am safe looking people in the eye. Because that's what happens. The amygdala says you're not safe. Cortisol comes to the frontal lobe, and then it's a shit show palooza after that. So the brain hemisphere benefits are that the right hemisphere has improved emotional tolerance. It has gaze processing and nonverbal cue detection. Because you're looking, you can actually assess what is actually taking place. And then the left hemisphere, you have increased verbal intentionality, self-talk regulation, and behavioral control. So now the prefrontal cortex is running everything. You can actually maintain that eye contact while the person is speaking, but more importantly, while you're speaking. And here's the tip. Pair these activities together with daily writing about your emotional state before and after eye contact interactions to track neural desensitization, and behavioral growth. So if you have to, and I'm not saying, oh, I didn't look at the person at the grocery store that asked me, could they get in front of me? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying actual contact that matters. So think about what happened before, during, and after, and then come back and assess in your default mode network time that 15 minutes or more a day when you are reflecting on what has taken place. And that gives you the ability to learn something. Charlie Munger said you got to go to sleep wiser every day than when you woke up. So if looking people in the eye is something that you need to strengthen, focus on it today. I'm going to look 10 people in the eye and have a conversation with them. I'm going to look 5 people in the eye. And then when you get to the end of the day and you're getting ready to assess what you learned today, you can say, oh, I learned this. I learned when I talk to tall people, I kind of got to look up if I'm talking to an older person. And then you can actually start assessing who you can't make eye contact with. Is it older people? Is it people with more money than you? Is it educated people? And because sometimes you can't maintain eye contact with someone because they're afraid too. So you could be good. Sometimes I'm great at eye contact, but because the other person is looking away, because of mirroring, I'm looking away too, when normally that's not something that I would do, but they're nervous. So now you can pick up on, and we talked about this about 2 weeks ago, external anxiety. And now you find yourself not being able to look the person in the eye. And at that time, you got to say, time out. Hey, what's happening? Why we can't make eye contact? Oh man, you so fine. You so pretty. What you said just made me nervous. Oh, it triggered me. Or I remember something from my childhood, because their amygdala is being hijacked. So now you got to understand why that hijacking is taking place. And then you will both be able to actually engage and have a better conversation. Before I move on to the benefits, what questions do you have about the 10 activities that you can use to strengthen your ability to look people in the eye when you talk to them? And if it's clear, say clear, and I can move on to the fourth and almost final section of the live. And if I appear a little bit excited this morning, I actually am, because all of a sudden I thought it was just as simple as, look at me while I'm talking to you. Like, what? 9 freaking brain regions that have to engage for eye contact? Are you kidding me? All this time I thought it was simple. Just turn your head and look at me, and I'm gonna look at you. And that is not the case. Okay, so here are the benefits for looking people in the eye. Your medial prefrontal cortex is going to benefit because it's going to strengthen your social cognition. It is your social cognition and your self-awareness. And the benefit is that it enhances your empathy, your confidence, and your authentic connection, because that is where the connection is at. That is where the connection is at. Next is the amygdala, and it's for your emotional processing. This is the function that's going to be strengthened because it builds tolerance to social risk and it reduces the fear of judgment. Oh my goodness, nope, I don't like that. Just a snap judgment. Right amygdala is like, nope, protect yourself. Protect yourself. Next is the superior temporal sulcus, and for gaze and motion detection. So it improves reading facial cues and nonverbal signals. Next is the fusium face area, and that's for face recognition. Obviously, if you have this as a neurological ineptness, or it happens that this is something that you're not able to do because of how your brain is wired, then you won't be able to do this. It's a rare group of people that actually have this, and it increases the familiarity and attention to human features. And so now you are accustomed. So what happens is this story just came to my remembrance, is that when I was in Korea back in the 90s, stationed in Daegu, I was on the economy. That's what we call it, living in the civilian world. And I had to stay in a Korean hotel for 3 weeks while I found housing. And on a K2 Air Force Base, they didn't have housing for officers who weren't married. So anyway, I'm walking home every day from the hotel till I find a hoopty. And every time I left, the children would be outside because it was a summer plane. And they would be laughing at me and looking at me. And my friend Crystal, she had an ajima rub her skin. And so they were not used to our faces. That's what I will say. It was interesting for them to have to be able to recognize a female GI in uniform that was not of African American descent. So for them, they were like, whoa, looking and pointing and everything. So it's quite uncomfortable at the time, but you got to understand where you were in that moment and that they were not accustomed to seeing that. So anterior cingulate cortex. That's for emotional regulation, and it enhances control over discomfort, shame, or anxiety. So it's like, oh my goodness, they're rich, they're a celebrity. I can't look at them. I can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, because all you have to do is do these exercises and you can look at everybody. Like I said, we have been in multi-million-dollar houses. I've been in a room with billionaires, celebrities, Oscar award winning, everybody. I will make eye contact with anybody. I don't care who you are. At the end of the day, people are people. But I had to grow to that because remember, as a child, I'm sitting in the corner sucking my thumb like, when we leaving? When we leaving? So I know that it's neurologically possible because I was someone who couldn't make eye contact. Next is the orbital cortex. No, I'm sorry. Anterior singular. Yes. So now we're on the orbital cortex, orbital frontal cortex, OFC. And so it's a social evaluation and it strengthens your ability to interpret social reward and appropriateness. And so you understand what amount of eye contact is appropriate in different social settings. So if you're playing spades, you're going to run a Boston on somebody, you want to keep making eye contact with them. But if you are speaking to a group of 100 people and you keep looking at that same person, that's not the right amount of eye contact. Dorsolateral prefrontal cortex that's the executive control. And what happens is it increases discipline, planning, and conversational focus. I can have a conversation with a 4-year-old and a 104-year-old now. This is not something that I could do when I was 22. No way. I was going to talk to a certain group of people, and then everybody else, if you weren't in that comfort zone for me, I was going to have a hard time trying to have a conversation with you or look at you. Now, I might look at you if you're threatening me, but definitely this has been an evolutionary process. And then the last one is the insula, and this is for internal awareness. And what it does is it boosts connection between the body state and the social intention. And so you are at one with what is actually taking place at that time. Now, the hemisphere benefits are this. And the right hemisphere, it's emotional, social nuances for facial expression and gaze interpretation. And the results of the benefit from eye contact are better social intuitions. You can read the room and the situation and know what's happening. Stronger empathy for what's taking place. Emotional resilience. And then better recognition of subtle signals. So as I've mentioned, know we'll go into appointment, tell me, come back out to the vehicle, tell me what's taking place. I will walk in and I got their whole life story as soon as I walk through the door because of that. So they can pick up on Big Mama just walked in the room and now we're having a whole nother different conversation. And then with the left hemisphere, it's speech control, logic, and intentional focus. We know the left hemisphere is responsible for language. And so that's what's happening. That's the part of what you say while you're looking people in the eye, or even as you run away, when you have a weakened ability to look people in the eye. And what this does from a benefit perspective is it's improved clarity and communication, increased verbal confidence, and it has conscious social decision making because you are using your prefrontal cortex. Now, the whole brain benefits are this. It enhances trust and connection in relationships. It reduces social anxiety and avoidance behaviors. It improves your working memory, which you need all day, every day, and your attentional control during conversations. And it strengthens integration of thinking, feeling, and expressing in real time. What questions do you have about the brain benefits of looking at people in the eye when you are talking to them? And let me go get my brain trust. And if you are thinking ... the ellipse, if anything is unclear. And I am having an allergetic day. Doo-da, doo-da. I'm having an allergy day. Oh, doo-da day. Allergies in the way. Allergies in the way. Noah says everything is clear to me. Clear as a bell, clear as mud. I ladder. Give me 1 second. Because I clicked out of that link. Un momento, por favore, Signora Mugo. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, so the eye contact ladder activity. It's gradual exposure. So the regions of the brain that it's focused on is the amygdala, the insula, and the ACC. And it reduces social anxiety gradually by exposing it to retain fear centers to calm during the gaze. So you're going to do it gradually. So you're going to start with contact with people that you know. So Shirley is your friend. You'd start having a conversation with Shirley over lunch or at your dinner table, sitting out on your patio, and you would just maintain eye contact with her. Say, hey, I need to maintain eye contact for 2 minutes. And so then you gradually go. And then you'd talk to a new neighbor in the neighborhood. And you have that gradual conversation because you're going to work your way up for investors for your business. And so you're gradually going up the ladder to be able to maintain eye contact with anybody. So you want it to be a graduated, each rung you go up. As you go up on the ladder, it's a more complicated person to have eye contact with for an extended period of time. Let me know if that makes sense. If you have it, not that it makes sense. I know it makes sense. Yes, my pleasure. Okay, and today's brain bit, we're going to be talking about trust. And it's the brain bit. And it's this. So the brain facts about trust. Trust activates the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the anterior insula. These are two key regions responsible for evaluating risk, reward, and emotional safety in relationships. When you feel safe and perceive others as trustworthy, and remember, one of the 74 principles of real leadership is to establish trust and be trustworthy, then the ventromedial prefrontal cortex integrates emotional and social information to guide decisions, while the oxytocin system helps reduce the fear of increase bonding. That's when you trust. So when you trust someone, your ventromedial prefrontal cortex and your anterior insula or the insula are going to say, okay, cool, we can trust you. And now your oxytocin is going to come on in, and they say that's the love hormone. That's how you end up with kids, because you trusted them. Okay. It's got some other functions. I'm messing with it, but they do. It is the love hormone. You said, come on in, baby. Yes, I trust you. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. What? Okay. You walked away with all your damn money. No, that's my story. Never mind. Okay. Anyway, that's how it happens. So that's what pimps do. They trying to get you to come on in and release that oxytocin. So next thing you know, you done signed up the inhibition control, doggone executive function, like, no. And then that amygdala's like, yes. And there you have it. But anyway, when you actually trust someone, that's what happens. So the key insight is that the brain treats trust like a valuable social currency. And when trust is established, fear and threat responses in the amygdala decreases, allowing for greater cooperation, empathy, and connections. But I trusted you. That's what you're saying. You're saying, I let my defenses down. I calmed my amygdala down, and you came right on in. But the good news is when you actually trust someone that is trustworthy, then it works. And there is this stronger bond and connection. So it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful system. So that's what you need to understand. When you are trusting somebody, you are using your ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the insula, and you are evaluating the risk, rewards, emotional safety. And if you feel like it's safe, you say, okay, cool, I trust you. Oxytocin comes in. And so that's what you're connected to with that person, is that oxytocin. y'all had this oxytocin exchange, and now that's why you're saying, I trust them. I trust them. I can, oh my goodness, I can be myself. I can be my 100% authentic self around them. I take my wig off. I trust them so much. That's what's actually taking place So when someone breaks that trust, what they've done is the amygdala said, no, motherfucker, I can't trust you. Ventral medial cortex and insula is like, danger, danger, stranger, stranger. And now that's what people are trying to rebuild, is that oxytocin connection that ain't connected no more. And it's like, yeah, I'll give you a sprinkle of some oxytocin. I'm looking at you. I don't know. That's why they say it takes years to build that trust, and in minutes it's gone. The oxytocin is like, love don't live here anymore. All right, what questions do you have about the brain? Bit/brain fact for today. If it is clear, we can go ahead and answer our 2 questions for Pulaui today and get on up out of here. Go take my shower and skin brush and salt and get to Sprouts. Skin brush, Sprouts, skin brush, salt, and Sprouts. All right. And what did you learn today about yourself, and what did you learn? And Lola has led the front of this and said, I learned looking people in the eyes helps your self-esteem. It uses 9 parts of the brain and helps with social skills. I also learned more about trusting. Yes. So if you don't trust somebody, your ventral medial prefrontal cortex and your insula say, something ain't right with them. Because remember, that gut brain is sending 400 messages to the head brain, one way travel every single day. So it's saying, don't trust that, don't trust that. So listen to your gut before you start giving out your oxytocin. Everybody ain't worthy of your oxytocin. Well, you ain't about to get my oxytocin. Like in that movie Life, when they said, you can't have my cornbread. You can't have my oxytocin. No, sir. No, ma'am. Not me. I see you trying to get some oxytocin. Nope. What did you learn about yourself? And what did you learn today? I learned the difference between hypoactivity and hyperactivity. And I also learned the impact of it with people with mental illnesses. So chat gave me a whole nice little summation, and I sent it to my child because now she has brain activities with a visual because she's a visual learner. That was awesome. Regina said, I had no idea that trust is brain-based. I'm blown away by the impact of the brain. I'm blown away by the impact of the brain on behavior. I know, every day. Isn't it amazing, Regina? Isn't it amazing? It's so neurological. I learned that eye contact is necessary for social interactions. It is. I mean, who would have thunk it? Everything goes back to the brain, because you see it. I see it online. They say life happens in the gut. I'm like, life happens in the brain. I feel you, but if the brain tell you to eat a red velvet cake, ain't nothing the gut can do but try to process that shit. Like, I told you we lactose intolerant. Why did you eat that ice cream? Right? The brain is one like, I want 2 scoops of butter pecan, put some fudge on it, and brownies, and all. And the gut is like, why? Eating something you're not supposed to be eating. The brain, now amygdala told you to do it, not your stomach. Nola said, eye contact makes people trust you. Yes, ma'am. So every day I am so elated with the information that I have. The most difficulty for me was when I still had extra information. I was like, there's no way I can get all this done in time for the live. But there actually is, that I'm going to put on the Really the Brain Instagram page, is another chart that compares the avoiding versus the doing it. And so I will put that information on the Instagram page. Once more content is on there, I will tell y'all to follow it, because everything that I share on the live, the graphics of it will be over there. And that will give you, and I will let people download that information over there, because I do not let people share download my content, because people be stealing it and doing dumb shit with it. Nola said, I learned about myself. Feeling overwhelmed will make me lose eye contact. Yes. And that's what happens. The amygdala, and that's why I sent you that hyperactivity and hypo and hyperactivity, because that's what's actually taking place. In closing, here is the beauty of neuroplability. Here is this, and I sound like my neuroscience teacher. The beauty, this is beautiful. Look at the colors from the dendrite tree. It's a beautiful, beautiful combination of it, and it's excitable and it's inhibitory. No, okay, anyway, I tell you, the point that I'm making with this is I find it empowering, and empower others is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And I'll read yours in a moment, Regina. One of the 74 principles of real leadership is empower others. And I find it empowering that all of these things in life, especially in adult life, that I believed was hard to do or impossible to do, or I couldn't fathom how it could be done, is neurological. Everything that takes place and doesn't take place is because of the brain. And I'm like, so all you got to do is learn how to use your brain, and your whole life is going to change and improve. Yeah, that's it. Learn, because it's a simple thing that people have said numerous times. Look people in the eye when you talk to, give them a good firm handshake and look them in the eye. But what if you don't trust them? What if they give you social anxiety because of who they are? Well, see, you a punk. You couldn't look them in the eye and shake their hand. You could, and it's 9 different brain regions that have to come together for you to have an eye-to-eye, face-to-face conversation with somebody. And that's empowering, because you might have thought it was just you a punk, because they say you a punk, you can't never look at nobody in the eye. If you have ADHD, autism, any mental illness is going to stop that neurologically, because the brain isn't wired to do that. It's popping off something else in the amygdala. And now you got this, oh my goodness, you have emotional deregulation. You're not going to be able to look people in the eye. Nola just said it. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, the last thing I'm thinking about is eye contact, because the amygdala said, run. And now other people are making it seem like it was just so simple, when it's 9 brain regions that have to come together in order for that to happen. So I am very happy that I came out as a nerd last October and took this leap of faith and learning about this very complicated organ in our body, because it is empowering to know that when you learn how to do something, why you can or you can't, and then the activity for it and the benefits, you're going to start doing it. You're going to start doing it. I remember when I was learning about sales, they said sell the benefit. Every day I'm selling the benefit of learning how your brain functions and telling you the benefits for you. They're not going to benefit me, but they're definitely going to benefit you. Now, Regina has said, for myself, I learned why I trust certain people and why there are others that I definitely stay away from. I will continue to trust and honor why I stay away from those folks. Yes. Absolutely. Don't be just giving out your oxytocin like it's samples at Costco. Absolutely not. They need, and that's why they say trust is earned. Trust is earned. Just because you like somebody don't mean you trust them. Hell no, I'm not. Nope. Very little. So learn about your brain, study the brain, master the brain, and then teach others to do the same. I guarantee you, when you start having neurological conversations with you, the conversations are going to shift. The conversations are going to shift and take a turn for the better. Think positive is one of the 74 principles of real leadership, because it matters. It matters who you're sharing your neurological time with. As I said and have been saying for the last couple of weeks, ask yourself, does this benefit my brain? Does this benefit my brain, or is this going to deteriorate my brain? Is my brain going to improve from interacting, watching, eating, all of these things? And if it's not, people like, I'm watching my heart health. I got my diabetes and no, I'm watching my brain health. And people have this concept now called brain rot. This is brain rot. They're not taking it seriously. They're using it as a term to say something is bullshit, but they're not really saying this actually is brain rot. This actually is going to be a neurological problem for me. This is going to create some neural pathways that my basal ganglia is going to be using and doing every day that doesn't bode well for me. So no, I'm not going to participate in that. I made some changes this morning. I spent 45 minutes this morning in my default mode network, getting rid of certain things. And I have this concept that I've developed called the 3 C's. I'll share it with you all later, because I just got it this morning at 3:45. But it is allowing me to be that 2 levels up. Where do I need to be? What is my kernel version of where I am now? And I've been asking higher power, God, the universe, for some clarity, and I got that clarity this morning. But if I didn't know about the default mode network, I just need some time to myself. No, every time I'm by myself I am in my default mode network, and I'm either going to be daydreaming, mind wandering, or actually focused on Dr. Donna and what Dr. Donna needs to do, and I'm choosing the latter. If I'm by myself, I'm in my brain saying, all right, brain, what we about to do? What's happening? Reading, learning, developing, and growing, because that's what's going to allow me to continue to take this neuropability from here into the galaxy. So every day that you choose your brain over going insane, you're going to have a brain gain. And every day that you don't, and you allow unaccountable people to talk you into doing dumb shit, you have nobody else but yourself to blame. You can't be over here and learn all this and then think you're going to go over there and be the same. And don't go over there trying to convert them. This ain't no damn church. Don't go over there like, well, have you accepted Dr. Donna as your Lord, as the person who knows how to use the brain? No, this is personal accountability. It is a personal choice to choose your brain over everything else. It's a personal choice to do it. And if people decide that they want to come over here and learn how to use their brain, good. But there is no convincing. You are not going to convince somebody with conformity bias and confirmation bias, negativity bias, living in a comfort cocoon with a hijacked right and left amygdala that they need to change. Embrace change is one of the 74 principles of real leadership, but that's a choice that you have to make. That is a choice. When you are addicted to dopamine and I'm saying, well, dopamine is good, but they got some other neurotransmitters and you can have sustained dopamine, but that sounds like work. I could just turn the TV on. I could just go to a concert. I could just talk about people. I could scroll on social media. What you telling me to do is I got to start doing something. Yeah, you got to start using the executive function of your brain and stop letting your amygdala run your life. You do. That's step one. The amygdala has to not be in control. When you go to a 12-step program in Al-Anon, number one step is we are powerless over these things. I'm powerless over the addicts in my life. You got to accept it. I didn't cause it, I didn't create it, I can't cure it, but I can work on me. So you can keep living a hijacked amygdala existence if you want to, but that's not what we do over here. The final thing that I will say, and I said this yesterday because Reed was behaving in a disrespectful way, and as we were interacting yesterday, Nola and I said it, and I will continue to say it. Unaccountable people, and this came from Linda, she said it way back in January. Unaccountable people need a host. They need a host. They need superiority. In order for superiority complex to work for them, they need someone to feel inferior. If somebody is a victim, they need a person victimizing them. They actually need some other host in order for it to work. When you are holding yourself personally accountable on a daily basis and you are using your brain as it was designed to be used, you don't need a host. You are the host. You have the host with you everywhere that you go. You have the host with you everywhere that you go. So see, Admiral Kirk, who just came in, needed a host this morning because what I was saying wasn't enough. So Admiral Kirk needed a dopamine boost, and I didn't provide that for Admiral Kirk. So that's what I'm saying. You can't come over here because this makes you uncomfortable. So then you have to do this comfort thing in order for you to say this cognitive dissonance. It can't be true. She's not right. I got a good life. I crack jokes. I'm the life of the party. What you talking about? I'm sitting on $1 million. I'm sitting on 15 million. I live in a mansion. I'm pulling up in the woo. And I'm saying, yeah, none of that matters. If you pulling up in the woo and that's okay with you, why do you have to put a picture of it on social media? Why do you have to go to all your family and friends' house and show them that you got the Lambo or whatever it is? Because you need a host. Because when you did it, you didn't get that natural dopamine boost because you didn't get results the right way. You did not get results the right way. But when you do it the right way, you get that natural, you have the journey and you have that natural release of dopamine and you're good and you're on to the next one. But when you cheated, when you skipped the line, ill-gotten gains, when you finagled it, when you did it so you could show a motherfucker, now you got to go show a motherfucker. And that's what's wrong with that system because the amygdala is running the show and the amygdala's job is fight, flight, freeze, or appease. So how can you let something that only knows how to fight, flight, freeze, or appease make decisions for you? You would never let a toddler drive an 18-wheeler tractor trailer truck. So why would you let your amygdala make day-to-day decisions for your life? That's how idiotic that sounds. But I'm not going to attempt to convince anybody. A person with the hijacked amygdala has to be sitting. We used to say this we say it in Al-Anon everywhere else. You got to bottom out. You have to realize that you don't want this amygdala whose job it isn't to run your life, to run your life. And when you have that cathartic moment, then you will say, Definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and then you will do something different. And you will finally learn how your brain functions, and then you will be able to be a bad mofo. Let me make that a highlight. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time today that you devoted to yourself. You are the most important person in your life, and the most valuable resource that you have is your brain. It is your responsibility to value the brain and treat it as the most precious organ that it is. And when you take care of your brain, you will have brain gain every day, and you will have this natural sustained release of all these neurotransmitters, because you will be giving your brain what it needs, and your brain will be giving you what you need. And it will be the best relationship, one of the best relationships that you have while you are here in physical form. I will be back tomorrow, God willing, higher power in the universe, same time, same place, safe space for those of you who want to be personally accountable. If you're unaccountable, you get what you get. Different brain t-shirt. You all go off and have a brain-tastic day. Take care.